Hiya, my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel. And welcome to today's exciting announcement. As some of you guys will know, or a lot of you guys who are watching this channel will know that the Women's Prize is hosted every single year. Women's Prize for Fiction is hosted every year, which is a prize supporting women authors, and it's something that I follow every year and I'm always so excited for. So me and my friends, when we got together last summer, Jem from Gem of Books and Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, we spoke about our love of the Women's Prize and basically said we would love to host a read along together of that. So this is what we're doing. Now, what is a plod-along, some of you might ask? Basically, it's going to be a very casual, very easygoing read along where we can all read all of you guys that are wanting to read the Women's Prize books, have a place to sort of natter about it together, and we can all support each other through reading it and just have a good old gossip about all of the books and etc. So it's going to be really, really casual, really, really chilled. You can try and read all of the long list, or you can try and read just a few. Either which way, all of us will be reading the books, various books at different points throughout the next few months. So yeah, we'll be doing weekly reading sprints, or in this case, what we call them, reading plods. So basically, it will be weekly live shows where we can we sit and read together. We can have a little natter about what we have read, and talk to some special guests about what they so various different booktubers or people that online, and see what they've been their thoughts on the long list and how they're getting on with all the books. So it's gonna be so much fun, and these lovely ladies, like I said, Alice and Jem, they're just so much fun anyway, as you guys will know. I'll put all the links in the description for their channels, obviously, and it's just going to be brilliant. So we will also be doing live reaction videos, the first of which will be when the long list is announced on the 7th of March. This will be on Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf channel, and then but I'll leave all the details as we sort of firm them up a bit more in the description. Also, we'll be setting up a StoryGraph challenge, so if you want to join in with that, again, as soon as that's ready, I'll link that in the description. We've got our weekly reading plods, live shows. We've got live reactions to all of the long list and then the short list. We've got our StoryGraph challenge, and we've got our special guests. So yeah, all of these things is just going to be so much fun, so brilliant. So I hope you guys can join us, and if you love the Women's Prize as much as we do, then I hope that you will participate in the plod along with us. So yeah, in a second you will see me and Charlie. We're doing our predictions videos. So here we are. Here we've got Charlie here. Charlie, say hi. Charlie of Charlie's Coat.
Hello.
This is our video.
Yes.
We're here to talk about the predictions. As you can tell, the predictions for the Women's Prize. This is what, and then when we finish this, we've got a wish list which we're putting on Charlie's channel. So I'll link that in the description.
There may be some crossover, but we'll see.
Watch that. You'll have to watch
Figure it all out.
Okay, so the first book that we've got on our predictions is A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. I think that's right.
Yeah, Ayobami Adebayo, who was shortlisted for Stay With Me a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure which year, but yeah, I'll put it on screen.
Many years ago.
It was a brilliant book. I loved Stay With Me. Have you read Stay With Me?
I read Stay With Me, and I didn't have the same opinion. I think we talked about this before, where I said that it's one of those where I would read what the author wrote in future, but I don't necessarily think that was the author's best work.
But I just loved it. So
everybody else who loved it at the time.
So that's why when this book was announced that it was coming out this year, I was like, well, this is surely a shoo-in for the long list. I kind of feel like it should be, or is it?
Yes. A dazzling story of modern Nigeria, with two families caught in the riptides of wealth, power, romantic obsession, and political corruption. Eniola is tall for his age, a boy who looks like a man. His father has lost his job, so Eniola spends his days running errands for the local tailor, collecting newspapers and begging, dreaming of a big future. Were Eola is a golden girl, the perfect child of a wealthy family. Now an exhausted young doctor in her first year of practice, she is beloved by Kunle, the volatile son of family friends. When a local politician takes an interest in Eniola and sudden violence shatters a family party, Wariola and Eniola's lives become intertwined. In this breathtaking novel, Ayobami Adebayo shines her light on Nigeria, on the gaping divide between the haves and the have-nots, and the shared humanity that lives in between. Immediately reminded of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Although that's two warring families.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a bit... It sounds like one of them. It sounds like a story that we've seen before, is all
I'm here for it, because I loved her writing in the first book, like I said to you. So I think that if anyone can pull this story off, I feel like that...
You're here for it, and I'm hypercritical.
Yeah, that's fine. That's classic Charlie's, really. It's true. Right, so Charlie, you can say the next book that because these are all books that we think is going to be on. So this is our predictions.
Yes, this is the predictions. Whether we like the books or not, or whether we want to read them or not. And the next book we have is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And this is a retelling of David Copperfield, really, set in, would you say, the American South?
I think so, yeah.
Because you said that your narrator of the audiobook had a Southern American accent.
That's what it sounded like to me. Obviously, I'm not American, so I don't 100% cannot confirm this. But yeah, it's a really good. I'm into. We both got quite differing thoughts on it, but this is a divisive book, I feel, because and obviously David Copperfield, because this is obviously, like Charlie said, this is a retelling. Yeah. Like, this is one that both of us love David Copperfield. So I feel like I can see this is going to divide opinion, as it has with us even.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, I really enjoy Barbara Kingsolver's writing, and I like the story of David Copperfield. So pairing them together, you think would be
magic,
a great thing. And I do like Kingsolver's writing, and I do think that she's captured the voice of this character quite well. The issue for me is what you said, which is that it does stick quite closely to the original storyline. However, something that I did find today with reading, and you're a bit ahead of me, is that Kingsolver has given the stories time to breathe in here. So you do get to feel more of the grief that Demon might be feeling throughout his life that wasn't necessarily present in the original text.
Yeah, right.
And I think Solver does allow more emotion to come through in the writing than you got to see originally with David Copperfield. And also I think that she's actually shedding light on how there is still impoverished people in the world, even 100 and whatever many years it is since.
Still relevant. The story is still relevant. It's still showing the relevancy of the story. Yeah, and like with the opioid crisis and everything like that, with it, that's obviously in this hit as well. I can agree. Like, I think if I would have read this before reading David Copperfield, I think that would make it elevate it even more, maybe, because if you've never heard this story before, I feel like that's the thing, that if you're a fan of the book, I feel like it could go either way. So.
And she's a
good storyteller.
Yeah, no, she's a great storyteller. It's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about her writing. As I said, when I read the I didn't realise that, despite the author's note, that she was creating a fictional character, because I just often find myself falling into, when she uses the first person voice, I often find myself, imagining that character and hearing their voice. And with Demon Copperhead, I do that. It's just, as Charlie and I have already discussed, I read a book that I particularly enjoyed last week. And so going into this one after that might have been a bit of an issue. I should have read something I really hated and then gone into this, and I would have had a better experience.
I get that massively. So the next one on the list we've got is Is it Tomorrow, and Tomorrow? I can't say the name of this bloody book.
I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
It's just a lot of tomorrows, basically, by Gabrielle Zevin. The Gabrielle Zevin book that everyone's going on about at the moment.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. Do you want to say the book about it, Charlie?
This is not a romance, but it is about love.
I'm not going to try and react to this. I'm trying to be open-minded about this book. Right,
I have to be, because this is one of my prize books, so I can't have an opinion yet. Two kids in a hospital gaming room in 1987. One is visiting her sister, the other is recovering from a car crash. The days and months are long there. Their love of video games becomes a shared world of joy, escape, and fierce competition. But all too soon that time is over, fades from view. When the pair spot each other 8 years later in a crowded train station, they are catapulted back to that moment. The spark is immediate, and together they get to work on what they love, making games to delight, challenge, and immerse players, finding an intimacy in digital worlds in their real lives. Their collaborations make them superstars. This is the story of the perfect worlds Sadie and Sam build, the imperfect world they live in, and of everything that comes after success. Money, fame, duplicity, tragedy. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow takes us on a dazzling, imaginative quest as it examines the nature of identity, creativity, disability, failure, the redemptive possibilities in play, and, above all, our need to connect, to be loved, and to love. That is a bloody long blurb that gives away too much of the story.
Loads of people have said positive things about this book. I think Fraser from Springboard Thought said he thought it was kind of average. I think that's correct, if I remember rightly. But apart from that, I've heard loads and loads of positive things about this book. I just my gut feeling, even though this is on my predictions, which I do think this is going to be on the list. I do think it will be, but I'm very pessimistic about this book. So it kind of I've read a previous book. I think I DNF'd a book by this author, and I think it was The Storied Life of AJ Fricko, which is like a really popular book in the BookTube past. But I just DNF'd it because I just didn't get on with it. So therefore, that kind of puts in my head as well. And it just I'm just like, really, do I really want to read this book? So that's just my thoughts on it.
I don't know. I have to read the book. I'll be the book's waiting for me at the library currently. I have to read it for the BookTube prize, so people get to see what I think about it at the beginning of April.
The link's in the description for the feature. Charlie will be.
But I previously had no interest in reading this book. But it is the case that it is popular, and that tends to put me off everything.
If you like Ready Player One vibes almost as well, because of
Don't say that.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the book that I Most that everyone on YouTube had a rant review of that I privated because, my Christ, I was incensed. So if this is like that book,
we just don't know. We'll see.
We don't know.
We're open-minded. It's on our list. We'll see.
You're open-minded. I'm from the North, love.
You say the next one, Charlie.
The next one is Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, and I wanted to read that one this month, and we'll see whether I do. I have it on my Kindle,
which I'm jealous for because I want to read this book.
You have the chance to, love. Get a NetGalley account.
I need to get NetGalley sorted.
Anyway, I'm not going to read the entire blurb because I'm fed up of spoiling these things. I'm just going to go with the last bit that is on.
Retelling, isn't it, as well?
I've heard it is, but I can't see what it's a. Oh,
it's a Shakespeare retelling of some
yeah,
kind.
It doesn't say which it is on the website, but a gripping psychological thriller from the Booker Prize-winning author of The Luminaries, Burnham Wood is Shakespearean in its wit, drama, and immersion in character, a brilliant constructed consideration of intentions, actions, and consequences. It is an unflinching examination of the human impulse to ensure our own survival. And this is the one where they're in they're activists.
It says it's it says it's a Macbeth's like retelling or odes to Macbeth, sort of like those kind of.
Okay, I mean, I like Macbeth if it is that one.
I don't know whether it's a retelling, but I think it's like got like it's like a retelling of like elements of parts of it.
Okay.
Right?
looking forward to this one. I like the Luminaries. I've yet to watch Kieran's review of Burnham Wood, but we will see. We will see.
If it doesn't get on the women's prize, for sure it'll be on the Booker. So we want to read this. Like this is one we're going to read.
Oh, I'm going to read it regardless of whether it makes prize. It's just if these judges have any taste at all, will do.
Yeah.
Being that I haven't read it.
So the next one we've got on our predictions is Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley. I feel like, again, out of all of the Booker ones from last year, I don't know, apart from anything else, I don't know entirely sure what's eligible, but I think this is the only one that there's a shoo-in for the women's prize, surely. Like, this is what we're kind of thinking. Obviously,
we've said it all along.
Ruth Ozeki last year mentioned this book in her acceptance speech. So, like, I can't, like, surely this has got to be on the women's prize long list, surely.
We predict it'll be on here. That's what this video is all about. We're certain that it's going to be on there. If it is on there, I won't be reading it because I tried reading it last year, and this is another author where I've said she's got the makings of being a writer at the moment, but she hasn't yet learnt how to blend craft and storytelling, because you had this very slow build-up and the actual plot of the story was really rushed towards the end. And the author was focusing too hard on making her prose sound how she believes it should than actually coming up with a good novel. I know that a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people were there crying on TikTok. I don't care. I ain't about this novel.
Yeah, for me, like, as you would have heard a million times on me and Charlie's videos last year, I liked her writing. I didn't feel like, again, like what Charlie said, I don't think the plot is particularly evenly paced. The pacing of this book, it was a massive issue for me. I feel like we were like a lot of this, and also like whoever did the blurb for it, it's like a lot of the stuff you have to wait for a big chunk of the way to get to the anyway. So that's my thoughts on it. I liked it, I didn't love it, and I had issues with the pacing. So yeah, and I definitely would read something more by this author in the future.
Oh yeah, as I said last year, and I'm maintaining now. A few books down the line, I'm sure that Leila Mottley is going to have a really fantastic book, and I look forward to that. But she ain't there yet.
Definitely going to win a prizes in the future. Like I for sure think this.
The Marriage Portrait by Maggie Farrell, and this is another really long blurb, Charlie. Can you?
It's about Lucrezia, isn't it? It's about a character. I think this is based upon real life. It's real life people, a real life story of a girl called Lucrezia. I can't remember. Tell the era that it's set in.
It's Florence in the 1560s.
Yeah, and so she's a young girl who has been like married off, and
I remember you talking about this book now.
Yes,
I
talk about this book.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's been married off, and the person that she's been married off to, obviously the premise of the book is that she has commissioned a portrait of her, basically a marriage portrait. There's a whole lot of other stuff that happens in between this, a load of drama, a load of intrigue, and yeah, it's based upon historical fact. So yeah, I liked it. It wasn't my favourite of the authors because I really enjoyed Hamnet a lot. But this wasn't as good as Hamnet for me personally. And the ending of it annoyed me somewhat a little bit. That's what, as I told Charlie.
Well, as you know, I've had a hit and miss relationship when it comes to Maggie O'Farrell's writing. Indeed, I've only liked Hamnet out of the 3 or 4 that I've read. And with the Marriage Portrait, I've maintained that should it come into the charity shop, then I'll get it from there. But even though it's set in Florence in the 1560s and I want to visit Florence at some point, not necessarily the 1560s because time travel just isn't there yet.
You need our new TARDIS.
We do. Even then, I'm not sure I want to meet the Medicis, but
definitely not this family. No.
But that's the only part of it that I would be interested in reading. And even then, before I read about Florence in the 1560s with Maggie O'Farrell, I have to go back and read Romola by George Eliot because I told a friend I'd do that 3 years ago and I still haven't.
That being said, I complained about this. The characterization in this is quite good. I feel like she does do characters quite well. I think she does. Right. I feel like, yeah. So It's just there was just a few issues.
There was something lacking in this book for you.
No, it just, yeah. I don't know about lacking. I don't know whether it's lacking. I don't know. It's sort of, yeah, it didn't 100% work for me.
So then we have The Rabbit Hutch
You can
by
tell this one.
Gunty, which a lot of people have now read and enjoyed. It won the Waterstones Book of the Year, I think, last year.
Yeah, I think it did.
And I'm sure that at some point in the future, I'll read it. Once again, I think that it's one of those books that I would wait until it came into the charity shop, because that's who I am.
Or a library book it.
This is a bitingly funny, razor-sharp debut about a motley assortment of residents in a crumbling apartment block. Welcome to The Rabbit Hutch. An online obituary writer, a young mother with a secret, a woman waging a solo campaign against rodents, separated by the thin walls of the Rabbit Hutch, a low-cost housing complex in the rundown Indiana town of Vaca Vale, these individual lives unfold. But Blondine isn't like the other residents of her building. Ethereally beautiful and formidably intelligent, she spends her hours reading Dante and dreaming about becoming a female mystic. Until, that is, 3 sweltering days in July culminate in an act of violence that will change everything, and finally offer her a chance to escape. Savage and hilarious, The Rabbit Hutch is a piercing look at the power structures that shape us and the tale of a young woman with irrepressible strength.
It sounds good. Like, actually, this sounds good to me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad at all. It's
not one I'd rush out to buy, but it's definitely one I would be interested in.
Exactly. That's I think that we've been burned one too many times by popular books to get too enthusiastic. We like to reserve judgment a bit nowadays.
We do. Us Charlies definitely do.
But I do like the sound of this in comparison to some of the other books that we predicted will be on here. And I believe that Stuart's of The Library is Open like this one.
Yeah,
and
I remember them reading it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we've got the Book of Goose. You can get the premise up. I have read this one, but you can get the premise.
I've got it ready here.
In Lee.
Do you want me to read this first and then you can say what you've got? Fabian is dead. Her childhood best friend Agnes receives the news in America, far from the French countryside where the two girls were raised. The place that, is it Fabian or Fabienne, helped Agnes 10 years ago. Now Agnes is free to tell her story. As children in a backwater town, they built a private world, invisible to everyone but themselves, until Fabienne hatched a plan that would change everything, launching Agnes on an epic trajectory through fame, fortune, and terrible loss. A dark, ravishing tale winding from the rural provinces to Paris, from an English boarding school to the quiet Pennsylvania home where Agnes can live without her past. The Book of Goose is a story of intimacy and obsession, friendship and rivalry, perfect for fans of Elena Ferrante, Otessa Moshfegh, and Camila Shamsi. It's funny, as I was reading the first part of this, I thought it had
Ferrante vibes.
Yeah, because of the two friends. But then I suppose you could say that about a lot of books.
Like, from what I've read about it, it's because it's like, so someone who obviously I've read it myself, but someone who I follow and trust, like their reviews, also who has read Ferrante, compared it to Ferrante. So I guess it's because it's a very slow, it's like, I haven't read Ferrante, but I guess it's because it's a very slow paced sort of like, it's this, very slow paced book. I listened to this on audiobook on Scribd, and I liked it. Like, it wasn't like a favorite, but I really enjoyed it. It's just about, you follow these two friends, and I don't want to spoil it, but basically they kind of like write a book together, or one of them sort of a little bit like is a bit more responsible for that than the other, and obviously it's about their friendship. I liked it. I didn't love it. It's a good, like, I was pleased to have read it. That's pretty much all I've got to say.
I mean, that's fine. It sounds like it sounds like your critique of this book is very much like when I just say about it exists. That's not. I probably like it a bit more than I probably like it a bit more than it exists. It's
like, I'm trying to think what I can compare it to. You know, like maybe like the Colony. Is it? Do I like it as much as I like the Colony, or maybe a bit more like that level? Because I did like the Colony.
So
It's sort of like
it's just a bit. It's a bit middling.
Yeah, definitely middling.
Yeah. Are you middling, Madeline?
I'd be interested to see what you think if it gets on the list, though.
Well, you see, having read the premise, I do like the sound of it, but it's.
I don't think you'll like this one. Actually, being honest, I don't think you'll like this one.
Well, it's like I see Otesha Moshfegh mentioned there, and I didn't like.
I don't think it's like that.
No, in terms of the Book of Goose. Well, if you were saying about it being the Colony, and I know just in terms of did you like it more than that sort of thing, and I like that less than you did.
Yes.
So that would mean that
But I don't think I don't mean in terms of.
In terms of story.
I think it's just. Yeah. Like
okay.
It's just very, very. It's a bit it's very, like you said, it's very mild. It's like mild cheddar.
Okay.
But it's like I like books like that. Like sometimes I feel in need for that kind of book. It's just the characterization isn't massively strong. The plot isn't super strong. It's just about the experience of the writing, and I think the writing is pleasant. So.
Oh.
What? Oh. Don't say that, don't, Charlie. I liked it. It's a compliment, kind of. Shut up, Charlie.
That might be the harshest thing I've ever heard you say about a book. Pleasant.
Pleasant's good.
No, an author never wants to hear that their work is pleasant. Pleasant is nice.
Jem from Gemma Books, because I know Gem's going to be watching this, obviously. She didn't like this book, so.
Okay, well, let's just move on to Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angres. I'm just going to read what BuzzFeed said about it because I can't be bothered with the blurb. 4 artists are drawn into a web of rivalry and desire at an elite art school and on the streets of New York in this gripping, provocative, and supremely entertaining debut. Yeah,
it's artsy, it's clever. I know that the reason I personally have heard about this, it was on the books of last year's books of 2022. It was on Matthew Sharappa's and it was on Olive from a book Olive's books of the year. So
yeah, that makes sense to me.
And I feel like it sounds like it could be a women's poesy type book. So
I just scanned the blurb, and it sounds like if you took the arty aspects of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, the rivalry of The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and threw in the dark academia that's present in that.
I feel like it's one.
It's just
I feel like it sounds like a prize winner. Like that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like it's clever. It sounds like it's doing something. It sounds like the judges could like this.
Well, we'll see. For me, it sounds.
I don't feel like it, but.
I've got to keep an open mind, Charlie. I'll keep an open mind.
Not one I necessarily want on there, but I think it could be. Yeah, Electra by Jennifer Saint.
This is The House of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a generational cycle of violence and vengeance. This is the story of 3 women, their fates inextricably tied to this curse, and the fickle nature of men and gods. Clytemnestra, sister of Helen, wife of Agamemnon, her hopes of averting the curse are dashed when her sister is taken to Troy by the feckless Paris. Her husband raises a great army against them and determines to win whatever the cost. Cassandra, princess of Troy, cursed by Apollo to see the future but never to be believed when she speaks of it, is powerless in her knowledge that the city will fall. Electra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon, Electra is horrified by the bloodletting of her kin, but can she escape the curse, or is her own destiny also bound by violence?
Sounds all right.
I mean...
Is it a women's prize long list if it doesn't have a Greek read? Is it Greek or...
It is a Greek retelling, yes. I haven't read any of the Greek retellings that have been on the long list or short list of these prizes before. I know that a lot of people have loved them. Your sister sent me one of them that is in my room.
Which one's that?
The Silence of the Girls, is it?
Oh, I've not read that one.
Pat Barker's one anyway. It's we've had a number of retellings this year.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a way a lot of storytelling's going. People are kind of leaning into the idea that all the stories have already been told, so I may as well retell an old one.
I can't. This is another one I don't really want on here, being honest. But not in terms of like.
Yeah,
I'm happy to. I do think it could be on the list because it does sound like it's one that would make a women's prize.
It's not a book that I would reach for, but it is a book that I would understand if it was on the women's prize long list because
women love Greek
talking about. It is doing that very recent thing, which is actually bringing to the forefront the women's voices from Greek myth that were often just swept to the side. So we're getting to give them a character, which I appreciate. It's just not necessarily something that I would have read.
Yes. We will be more positive about the Wishlist books because obviously I feel like these are like we put it on our list, but we're hating everything. But if we go to
we're always tentative with the books that
if you go to our wish list is full of like us being happy and gushy about them. So this is like we haven't even filmed it yet, but I know it will be. But this is a little bit more.
Who we are.
Yeah, we're a bit more skeptical. We've done quite a lot of prizes together. We're just a little bit more.
Yeah. So then we have Four Treasures of the Sky by Jenny Tingui Zhang, and this one from the blurb interests me, but I'll read it to you. Dayu never wanted to be like the tragic heroine for whom she was named, revered for her beauty and cursed with heartbreak. But when she is kidnapped and smuggled across an ocean from China to America, Dayu must relinquish the home and future she imagined for herself. Over the years that follow, she is forced to keep reinventing herself to survive. From a calligraphy school to a San Francisco brothel, with shop tucked into the Idaho mountains, we follow Dayu on a desperate quest to outrun the tragedy that chases her. As anti-Chinese sentiment sweeps across the country in a wave of unimaginable violence, Dayu must draw on each of the selves she has been, including the ones she most wants to leave behind, in order to finally claim her own name and story. Four Treasures of the Sky announces Jenny Tingui Zhang as an indelible new voice. Steeped in untold history and Chinese folklore, this novel is a spellbinding feat.
This is one we would have put. This is not on our wish list, but this is one we would have put on our wish list. But this is like we want this. Like this is not just a prediction. This is like we want this as well.
Yeah, because we hadn't heard of. Well, I hadn't heard of this book before.
Maybe neither would I.
Carly had me figuring out what I wanted to go on the wish list and predictions, and it does from the blurb. It sounds like it does a few things that I like. A little bit historical. Little bit of folklore and a world-spanning story that's
and like a good tiny
light on people I don't know about.
Yeah, and good tiny plot, which
Yeah,
it sounds good. This is one that we probably want to read this if we can squeeze this into our even if it doesn't make the list. This is one we want to read.
Exactly. Forget about all the. Forget about the 700 books I've got to read. Forget about Anthony Trollope and all that. I don't need that in my life. I'll have this instead.
All the Charles Dickens on the list. Yes.
Oh, Christ, Charles Dickens. Ugh, bloody Bleak House. Yeah, forget Bleak House. This one sounds okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. No, this is one we're actually positive about. This is the one we're positive about. We're excited, happy.
I love that we are being so cynical and critical of books that might not actually make it onto the long list. Like we're actually over here judging
being
books.
Salty.
So they're already on there.
This is what we're like though. This is like the salty side. And like I said, the wish list is going to be our sweet side. This is Charlie's, this is our personalities and this is.
Yeah, we just gave the nice one to the wrong Charlie this week.
No, that's fine. This is like Trespasses. So Trespasses by, I can't remember the author again.
Louise Kennedy.
Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. Do you want to say the blurb, Charlie?
Yeah. There is nothing special about the day Kushla meets Michael, a married man from Belfast in the pub owned by her family. But here, love is never far from violence, and this encounter will change both of their lives forever. As people get up each morning and go to work, school, church, or the pub, the daily news rolls in of another car bomb exploded, another man beaten, killed, or left for dead. In the class Kushla teaches, the vocabulary of 7-year-old children now includes phrases like petrol bomb and rubber bullets. And as she is forced to tread lines she never thought she would cross, tensions in the town are escalating, threatening to destroy all she is working to hold together. Tender and shocking, Trespasses is an unforgettable debut of people trying to live ordinary lives in extraordinary times.
Sounds like a good one. This actually sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I didn't need the last line of that blurb because before that I could see what this was doing. And it's something that like a workshop idea you get when you're in, well, a creative writing workshop idea that has been used in the past is to, rather than talk about the people who are actually at the center of these huge global catastrophes and events, some people might think to go to the heads of the politicians and that sort of thing and see what's happening there. But one thing you're tasked with is writing about how this is affecting the ordinary lives of people. And I like the sound of that. I like the sound of how this is going to show us how people were just trying to go through their day-to-day lives because they still have to live as normally as they can. And all, it's similar to Milkman. That's what I was thinking of.
And this is like recent history for us because as we were when we were kids, this was happening like in Ireland. Like this is recent. So yeah.
When you maybe.
Well, my childhood, yeah. Sorry.
Your child.
Sorry, Charlie. I forget.
Well, no, I did know about
it. When some of it was happening, maybe.
I think that it was still going on, but I was too young to.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known about it.
Yeah, but it's something that we still see popularized when people are talking about recent history, and it does. It's still a big thing to a lot of people, and I was just saying that with it being in recent history, I can remember at uni someone telling the story of how when they were in their 20s, they visited Ireland and things were still quite hot. And they asked where to go and drink. And they got told by whoever the owner of the place they were staying in was. I can't remember which direction it was, but it was something like, if you go right, you'll have the best time of your life. If you go left, you're going to get nothing but violence. Because it was split throughout the town that this side was and that side was, So
reality. So
it's like it's as you say, it's recent history. It's something that we have all heard of. There was a fantastic BBC drama 10 years ago called White Heat. And that discussed these issues as well. So I'm interested in this one. I wasn't when I saw it, but I know about it.
And again, it's not one like I've rushed out to buy, but like it's if it's on the list, I'll be interested to read. Obviously, all of these are anything that goes on the list, we want to read. But
with this one, even if it's not on the list, I want to read it, but it's not like one that I'm gonna like launch.
A library book. This is a library book for me. Yeah, or like this one in the charity shop. But they normally have an Irish author, like I don't know what it's good. Like I want an Irish author on there, and I feel like this would be a good choice. So yeah, this is why we picked it.
Exactly. So then we have Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson, and I can't deny there was part of me that, like, since this book came out, I've thought that it might be on the Women's Prize long list anyway because it's Kate Atkinson.
Yeah.
But then having read Emotionally Weird last week, I'm still stuck in a bit of, as they say, a book hangover with that book. And as Charlie knows, because I've been wanting to avoid everything else since, I just want to read more of Kate Atkinson's prose. So this was a bit selfish to end up on the predictions on my part. But this one...
I'm interested in this one.
This one is 1926, and in a country still recovering from the Great War, London has become the focus for a delirious new nightlife. In the clubs of Soho, peers of the realm rub shoulders with starlets, foreign dignitaries with gangsters, and girls sell dances for a shilling a time. The notorious queen of this glittering world is Nellie Coker, ruthless but also ambitious to advance her 6 children, including the enigmatic eldest, Niven, whose character has been forged in the crucible of the song. But success breeds enemies, and Nellie's empire faces threats from without and within. But beneath the dazzle of Soho's gaiety, there is a dark underbelly, a world in which it is all too easy to become lost. With her unique Dickensian flair, Kate Atkinson brings together a glittering cast of characters in a truly mesmeric novel that captures the uncertainty and mutability of life, of a world in which nothing is quite as it seems.
I mean, that sounds really good. And this may or may not be on our wish list, but we just literally, this is like, so Charlie's got a physical copy of this, haven't you?
Yes.
And I requested, because on my BorrowBox app, I requested the audiobook and also the ebook. So because of the fact that if I struggle to read the ebook, then audiobooks often work better for me personally. So yeah.
I mean, I basically strong-armed Charlie to include this one on the list.
No, you didn't. It's fine.
No, for me, this is one that I will be reading regardless of whether it's on the long list or the short list. As I say, rereading that book last week has really reignited my adoration of Atkinson's writing. So much so that I even started Life After Life.
Again? How many times have you started that book, Charlie?
I think I've started it maybe 5 or 6 times.
I think I knew this.
The furthest I ever got was page 280.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
there is a want in me. There are 2 books in my life that I want to read because of joy from the writers group. So they are Life After Life by Kate Atkinson and The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy.
Yeah.
The reason behind that is that these are books that over the years of knowing her, Joy has gone back to, but not necessarily read the entirety of the book. She's gone back to those books just to open them and read small passages that have spoken to her in some way.
So the lines.
Yeah, and I want to know why.
Have you watched the telly show of it? So just in terms of like, would that ruin it for you? Would you do that? Because the BBC had it.
The BBC had it on either last year or the year before.
It was really good.
I haven't watched it, but as you know, it takes me years to get to watching a TV show.
That was really, really good. So, but I think it was episodes. It was episodic. So
yes, it was. And the book is as well, really.
Yeah.
I will get to it, but Shrines of Gaiety might end up getting finished before that. But I just, at the moment, am unable to quell how much I'm liking the author's prose, so I might have to steer clear of it for a bit, so that I don't fawn over it too much.
That's all right. We'll see what happens when it comes with Women's Prize time.
I mean, if it's not on there, I'm going to riot. That's all I'll say.
This has got a strong chance. Like out of the big hitters,
Yeah.
this has got a strong chance. But the next book is The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka. Is it?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can say the premise again because this is one that I've heard about, but I can't remember the plot about. But it was on Eric Carl Anderson's favourites of the year. So anything that Eric loves, it makes us all want to read it. Let's be honest.
I mean, yes, that's why I currently have a 730-page book out from the library. The swimmers are unknown to each other, except through their private routines, slow lane, fast lane, and the solace each takes in their morning or afternoon laps. But when a crack appears at the bottom of the pool, they are cast out into an unforgiving world without comfort or relief. One of these swimmers is Alice, who is slowly losing her memory. For Alice, the pool was a final stand against the darkness of her encroaching dementia. Without the fellowship of other swimmers and the routine of her daily laps, she's plunged into dislocation and chaos, swept into memories of her childhood and the Japanese internment camp in which she spent the war. Narrated by Alice's daughter, who witnesses her stark and devastating decline, The Swimmers is a stirring, intimate story of mothers and daughters and the sorrows of implacable loss written in a spellbinding, incantatory prose.
And with this one, it's a shorter one. So we've listed quite a lot of bigger books. We've got quite a lot of chunky books. This is like, I think it's like 200, 250 pages. It obviously counts for the word count, but it's shorter. So
I mean, it does sound mildly heartbreaking.
yeah. But we like that. That's our catnip.
That makes us that.
Yeah.
No, I get, it's not wrong. When I first started reading it, though, I thought it was going to be like The Lido by, whether that was by, I think Emily read that.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely in no way anything like that at all. So like, when it started, I was like, oh, we're going to get this nice, quaint story about people at a swimming pool. Oh, wait. And then I got to that second paragraph, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing like that. It's because it's a blue cover. The cover is very blue, isn't it?
It is.
Obviously, because it's swimming pool. So, as it would be. Do you want to say the next one?
So we have River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. Her search begins with an ending. The master of the Providence plantation in Barbados gathers his slaves and announces the king has decreed an end to slavery. As of the following day, the Emancipation Act of 1834 will come into effect. The cries of joy fall silent when he announces that they are no longer his slaves, they are now his apprentices. No one can leave. They must work for him for another 6 years. Freedom is just another name for the life they have always lived. So Rachel runs. Away from Providence, she begins a desperate search to find her children, the 5 who survived birth and were sold. Are any of them still alive? Rachel has to know. The grueling, dangerous journey takes her from Barbados, then, by river, deep into the forest of British Guiana and finally across the sea to Trinidad. She is driven on by the certainty that a mother cannot be truly free without knowing what has become of her children, even if the answer is more than she can bear. These are the stories of Mary Grace, Mika, Thomas Augustus, Cherry Jane, and Mercy. But above all, this is the story of Rachel and the extraordinary lengths to which a mother will go to find her children and her freedom.
Sounds amazing. Like, I am there for this. This is like, and then do you want to say about the cover thing?
Yeah, so Charlie liked the US cover more than the UK cover. And then I saw the UK cover and told her how I was drawn to it because it reminded me of the birds that are in the beginning of the Lion King.
Yeah.
And so I'm quite fond of both covers, but I don't mind the English cover and would head towards this any day. I think that the premise of this story sounds like something that you and I would both like to read about. Part of it reminds me of Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. The familial aspect of it also reminds me of the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois from last year. It's almost one of these stories that's telling the tales of, well, it's a family saga. That's what I was going for. It's like,
which is one of the things we love. Like, it's just, I think it's like a mother's love thing, and it's like,
it's not necessarily just about the maternal bond thing either. It's
the search and the journey and
about the family and the
dynamics.
Unknown. We do tend to like a lot of books where families have been torn apart. I'm not sure what that says about us, Charlie.
I don't know. I think it's the family thing. I'm going to say it's the family.
Yeah, I do think it is closer to the whole familial thing, and I think that it just makes sense to us.
I really think this book will do big things this year. Like, I feel like that is.
I mean, we haven't read it. We're going off the blurb here, but the blurb sounds so strong that we're hoping that the writing is going to be as well. And I downloaded the sample of this to read. So
good shout.
We'll see.
So Mermaid by Jessica George. This again, the US and the US covers are quite, the US versus the UK covers are quite different from this. And again, the US cover I actually think again is much more striking. And the UK cover, I feel like it looks much more contemporary. Have you looked?
I'm looking at the UK cover right now. It's not the cover that I know. I know the UK cover and I prefer that one. the UK cover almost looks like she's about to
Looks very contemporary.
broadcast. Ma mère has many meanings in Twi, but in my case it means woman. Meet Maddie. All her life she's been told who she is. To her guardian parents, she's ma mère, the one who takes care of the family. Her mum's stand-in, the primary carer for her father who suffers from Parkinson's. She's the responsible sister, the quiet friend, the one who keeps the peace and the secrets. It's time for her to speak up. Maddie knows what kind of woman she wants to be. One who wears a bright yellow suit, dates men who definitely aren't on her mum's list of prospective husbands, and stands up to her boss's microaggressions. Someone who doesn't have to Google all her life choices, who demands a seat at the table, but will it take losing everything to find her voice? Unique, unfiltered, and unforgettable, Ma mère is a deeply moving, achingly funny debut about finally finding where you belong.
Which just sounds really good.
It does.
You're not as keen on this one, are you?
I was just reading the blurb then, and so many different things came to mind. And yeah, I feel like this isn't the blurb I read on the US edition.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's done it a disservice because
that's a UK blurb, definitely.
Yeah, so like I said, I was watching a video last night. Me and Charlie have been talking about this book anyway because it was we did an anticipated reads last year, which I'll link the video down below in our Charlie Christmas cracker videos. And so we discovered it, and both of us like, oh, this sounds really well. Yeah. Particularly me, I was like, it sounds like a very good book. Last night I watched a video by Bookish Babe, and she's just such a lovely booktuber. I'll link her video that she did last night, and she talks about this book, and she said that when she first saw this and she first heard about the premise, she was kind of like, oh, this is like, I'm not going to really be that. This is going to be like, because loads of people are talking about it. It's being hyped. I think that's fair to say. And she thought that it was going to just be like a bit of a letdown. But she read it and she loved it. So, and she's quite like, when she reviews books, like she doesn't go easy on them. So, yeah, I'll link that video down below that she did. Like I said, that I watched last night. She's an amazing YouTube booktuber. So yeah.
I do think that the UK cover and the UK blurb have done it a disservice there, because as you said when we first talked about the cover just now, it is almost as though it's trying to make it out to be a contemporary.
Yeah.
I definitely have my thoughts on that style of writing, and so I feel like I would have to read it because it's one of them. It's one of them. Had I just pulled up the American edition on my phone, I wouldn't be feeling as tentative as I am now, having when I wasn't months ago. I'm hoping that we are actually right with some of these predictions.
We're not that bothered. We're quite chill.
We are. I think there's a few. Well, we both think that these are all contenders to be on that long list, but I'm hoping that after we had such success last year predicting what was going to go on with the Women's Prize and the Booker Prize.
I feel like with the Booker we did really well. We didn't do a Women's Prize long list predictions.
No, but we did chat, didn't we? A lot.
Yeah, we did talk about it together.
But I think that, I'm hopeful because we have such varied reading tastes that together we might have figured out some of the books.
Combination. And if not, then hopefully our wish list will do it anyway, because that's what we really want. Those are the books we really want.
That is what we really want.
I'm not happy for any of these anyway. Like I say happy because obviously some of them were less in a rush.
There's at least 3 that I wouldn't mind being left off. Yeah. When is the long list announcement, by the way?
It's the 7th of March. And so I hope that thank you, Charlie, for helping me do the predictions. We're going to everyone go over to Charlie's channel and watch our wish list, because that's the really fun thing, because that's like ultimately that's what we really want on there. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and also I hope that lots of you will join in with the Women's Prize Plodalong with me, Jem, and Alice. So yeah, and like I said before, all of the information about the Plodalong will be in the description. So yeah,
Plodalong is a great title.
It is, and I'll talk about it in a second with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Take care, everybody, and sending you lots of love. I'm going to stop recording. Goodbye. Wait, goodbye, Charlie.